Alrighty. I swear Black and Blue, I made this once before. I must have deleted it because there's too much wind noise, so I'll make it again. Now, when I made the video on what you should hoard before you go off grid, I sort of talked about IBCs and 55-gallon drums and stuff like that. And you may say, well, that's all great, but I can't go to the hardware store and just buy these things at the hardware store. So, where am I going to get them from? Good question. Now, often, most 55-gallon drums have been used in some sort of an oil-related product. Most of the time. So, one of the places you can go is earth-moving mechanics or diesel mechanics. You know, places that fix bulldozers, you know, and graders and all that. Even places that fix tractors, places that fix big rigs and stuff like that. A lot of those places have these left over because of the large amount of hydraulic oil that goes into bulldozers and transmission oil that goes into, you know, big rigs and tractors and that. You know, if you've got a whole fleet of big rigs, when you change the oil, there is so much oil you go through, it's not funny if you've got like a dozen of them or something like that. So, you know, in that, they end up with a lot of these things. Now, some of them they may give away free to, you know, employees and stuff like that. So if you know someone who works at one of these joints, they can probably get you one for free or, you know, not very much. If you were to go and approach one of these joints straight up, you'll probably also get them, you know, cheap, but they will expect, you know, $10 or something like that, or $5 or whatever. But that's, you know, one of the big ones. The other one is, and you may not have thought of this, but sandblasting places, like where I done my apprenticeship. Now, we used to get them with thinners in it, and where I was at Air Radiators, we used to have black radiator paint, the, what was it, etch vinyl, yeah, sort of heat-proof stuff, and we used to spray these truck radiators with it, and basically that would come in the 55-gallon drums, or as we call them here, 44-gallon drums, because they're 44 British gallons. And, you know, we'd spray paint, and you'd go through one like every, every week and a half or something like that. And, you know, you ended up with a great heap out the back. Now, we had someone who took them away, but having said that, if you've got these, you know, family-owned businesses and blah, 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 where it's just, you know, the man and the wife and a couple of blokes, you know, who have a spray painting business, you may, you know, be able to get them from them. Not all people use this sort of stuff in spray painting because, you know, sometimes they'll have one job's one colour, another job's another colour, so they end up with a whole circus of these little gallon tins or 5-gallon tins or whatever. So that one won't always get you there. But another one that we have, now you may want to think about plastic 55-gallon drums. Well, over here, we seem to like import, like shampoo and like liquid soap for washing your hands, you know, a lot of different things, hand creams, and all that. And we repackage them up into like your little packets, you know, your little ones that you have sitting on your hand basin in your bathroom and stuff like that. And what happens is these joints get this in these huge big containers and just basically hook up a bunch of pipes and refill it into these containers and then just bang a bunch of stickers on the front. And down at your dollar store, as you have, and we have only ever had $2 stores, and yeah, now they call them mostly $2 stores, and you go in there and everything's either $3 or $5 or somewhere in between. Things aren't cheap in Australia. There's nothing you'll get in a dollar store for $1 anymore, because we never even had dollar stores. They're always $2 stores. But anyway, the sort of shampoos and all that they sell in there have often come from places that repackage this. And a lot of the stuff I pick up and it says made in Australia or product of Australia sort of thing, or, you know, it'll have the address of the company and it'll be like just down in the state capital. And if that's the case and you're in the state capital or near the state capital, you may want to have a look at these and look them up in the phone book, or if they've got their number on there, ring them. And sometimes they've got a website or whatever, and say to them, look, you got these containers, can I come and get some? Now, the other obvious one is Craigslist. And we've got one here in Australia called Gumtree, and there's one in Canada called Jiminji or something, blah, I can't remember, something. Anyway, there's that sort of stuff you can go on, and they'll often have it. But also when I'm going around, like the petrol station in the next town, they've got a notice board up. The local little shop here's got a notice board up, and they'll have these things advertised on those. Now, I went and got some of these 55-gallon drums when I was driving up the next town, and I went past someone's place, and they had them all stacked up against the fence line for sale sign. And I thought, hang on a minute. So I'd done a U-turn and turned around, and they wanted $10 each for them. And I thought, well, that was all right. And they'd been used for engine oil, I think. It was some sort of oil product because it's got a brand of a well-known service station over here, a gas station. And yeah, I think yeah, they were $10 each, and the next day I got my father to go up, and he got a bunch for himself, and I got about 4 for myself as well. But $10 each, that's pretty good. I mean, these were basically brand spanking new. The paint is perfect on it. Well, it's crappy paint they put on them, but the paint's still all on them. There's no rust, and if you open the top, you can, there's still a little bit of oil in there. And that was one I found. Now the other, when I first got into my uncle's old house there, I didn't have a full-size water tank. I had IBCs. Now I was up at that town, and I was at the fuel station up there, and as I was walking in to pay for my fuel, they had this, they got this notice board there, and they had them advertised in that notice board. So later on in the day, I rang the bloke up, and he said, yeah, come around. I'm basically, he was in the same town, so I drove back up there, and yeah, there they were, and he'd used them. Well, he basically worked for a printer who does brochures, magazines, leaflets, flyers, all that sort of stuff, and they all had ink in them, but it was water-based ink. And basically, give it a blast with a pressure washer, and you clean it all out, and they're good to go. It wasn't toxic or anything like that. And if you don't have a pressure washer, often you can go to a car wash, and the car washers over here, we don't really have very many at all that have got the big ones where you drive your car and there's big bristles that are like spinning and all that. We don't have that many of those anymore. Most of the ones we've got now are big tiled areas, and then you just got this monstrous pressure washer that you can use, and it's got like a button you hit for the soap and all that. And yeah, basically you can go to one of those if you don't own a pressure washer, and then just leave it in the back of your truck and just blast it out with it. You've got a fair bit of water in the bed of your truck, but all the same, if you put the foot down, it all goes out the back anyway. So yeah, but that's another one. Another one also is, and this is a really good one if you want plastic 55-gallon drums. Try going to breweries, because I delivered some invert sugar to a brewery once, and I'm pretty certain it was in one of these plastic 55-gallon drums. And it's sort of like food grade sort of stuff. I've also seen IBCs full of cooking oil and things like this. And any of these places that deal with food related stuff, they can be. Like one joint I went to was a fish processor, and they had some sort of cooking oil or something in IBCs there. There was the brewery that I was saying. Look at some of these food joints, because when you go to the food joints, a lot of this stuff will be fine to drink straight out of. Especially if you go to a place that repackages maple syrup or something like that, and then all you got to do is just, tank full of maple syrup. What's it going to do to you? You're going to be fine. It's food anyway. I'd still say blast it out if you don't want your hot water system gumming up with blooming caramel, but all the same, food places or places that process food, when they have stuff that's had food in it, you're going to be fine because it's not something that's toxic, is what I'm trying to get at. But yeah, that's some of the places that you may want to look into to be able to get your steel 55-gallon drums, plastic 55-gallon drums, and plastic IBCs. I should also mention that your IBCs out in the sun, most of them are clear, they'll get algae in them. I used a thing called Alginox, which is basically a, well, it kills algae in your pool. I got it from the pool section of a hardware store. And be careful about sort of going and buying a whole heap of this stuff, because if you buy chlorine-related products in large amounts, if you're not too stupid, you can actually make mustard gas out of it, and you may end up on a terrorist list. So don't go going, I'm a prepper, I'll buy 2 pellets, or I'll buy 20, 5-gallon containers, because the alarm bells will go off and you will get a flaming little visit from someone, and hope to hell it's not the Department of Homeland Security or something like that, because alarm bells do go off when you buy too much chlorine. Although it's good for killing algae, just don't buy heaps at once from the one place. But you can also get IBCs with dark sides. I got one that's got a white sides on it, but I sort of found out it's only like a thin sort of paint layer. When you look inside, you can still see it's a clear one, and then it's only like this thin layer of white coating, almost like it's been painted sort of thing. And that gets more algae than the other ones that are clear for some reason. Anyways, if you look in the inside, you'll know if it's a solid black, and you can get these black ones, and they won't have that sort of trouble. So yeah, and also if you want to do anything with a 55-gallon drum, and you end up cutting the top off in the process of trying to make a door for your wood heater or whatever, you might want to burn all the oil products out, and you can throw a little bit of gasoline in there or whatever, and then just chuck them at you and just try and burn it all out. And if you want it really clean, you can get it sandblasted. Don't leave the oil in there and then give it to the sandblaster, because he'll fill it all up with degreaser, which is as toxic as hell for anything. It's got acetone and toluene. You don't want to get near that if you can avoid it, especially not acetone. It's just some nasty stuff, acetone. So if you can burn the muck out first off, and then go and get it sandblasted, but don't just say I want it sandblasted. Ask for a class 3 blast. And when you ask for that, they suddenly might think you know something, because I do know something, because that was my apprenticeship. And class 3 is the clean as a whistle grade blast. And when you say that, they might suddenly think, oh, hang on, this bloke sort of knows something, and actually give you a good quality job. You may want to think about, getting it painted with heat-proof black paint. You can actually buy that yourself, though. Rather than have a wood heater with normal paint, because it's real crappy paint that you get with those on the outside of those drums, and then it'll start to smoke up and cause hell. Or you can just get it all sandblasted off quite easily as well, but then the wood heater will end up going rusty on you quite easily instead. So the heat-proof paint, it's the stuff they use in exhaust pipes. That's what you put on your wood heater to paint your wood heater if you make one out of a 55-gallon drum. But yeah, there you go.